Hey Piotr.
Hi, Artur.
Hey, thanks for joining me in the podcast for e-commerce leaders.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure. Always a pleasure discussing AI with you. How many hours have we discussed this year about the agents and all other AI stuff?
I think if I had discussed that much with clients as with you, I would have product market fit definitely already. It was a lot. So maybe to start with, what is the one myth about AI agents that you would like people to forget forever?
I think that the first and foremost is that they are ready right now to replace real humans. It's not going to happen like anytime very soon. I would say very soon because the technology develops so quickly that it's very difficult to predict anything. But I guess one and the most crucial thing is that as a humans, we tend to delegate things to other humans, not because they are doing it perfectly well or the fastest or the best quality, but rather to just delegate the responsibility. So to be sure that if you ask, I don't know, Mike, Jane, whatever, like whoever to do something, you simply can make them accountable for that. And with AI, it's very difficult. Like, it's impossible, right? It's impossible. So that's one thing. The other thing is that the agents are still pretty like in the early days. They are pretty much limited right now.
Yeah, totally agree. You cannot hold the agent you developed accountable for your miserable business
Right.
returns, right?
Exactly. They are more like you have screwdriver and then you have some better toolings. So there are still better toolings, but they are not the real people doing real really like making the jobs done.
But even today, with this really early technology, every vendor calls their technology AI. Every vendor calls their chatbot an agent. So the closest you can get to the true, what makes a real agent today?
Yeah, that's a great question, Artur. I think that the difference is in the details, and sometimes it's even pretty much difficult to separate the agents from assistants. But I guess that the classical definition is that assistant is like classical LLM. Like you go to ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, whatever, and you asking questions, and this assistant is trying to answer the questions. That's it. So it's very like conversational interaction, answering the questions most of the times, or doing very simple things you explicitly ask this agent to do. Right?
Mm-hmm.
The real agent, like as the definition says, it's more like trying to achieve the goal you put in front of it on their own. So you can say like, plan a holidays for me. I want to go, I don't know, to Croatia, whatever, and plan the holidays for me. And this is very much substance of it is like getting into steps planning how to plan this holidays in Croatia. I need to go and check the flights. I need to check your interest first and so on. So doing the planning before the execution. And I said that the difference between assistants and agents is pretty small because the newest models like O3 from OpenAI and Gemini Pro, for example, they are doing this reasoning, and the reasoning is kind of something the agents done before. So planning how to answer your question, what steps needs to be done. So that's one and the most important difference. The other is that agents should be able to operate on real-time information. So in this case, with holidays, they should be able to check the real flights, like the prices whatsoever, like in this very current moment, not from the data they were trained on like 2 years ago or something like that, but just now. So they the next thing to make it happen is that they need to use the tools, so function calls, to check those flights, browse the internet, use your computer, set the code in the editor like in Cursor or whatever. So using tools is another one, and probably the third most important thing is that they probably should also have a way to memorize things, build the context. Maybe connected with that is that they are usually using some kind of RAG stacks, so augmented generation by having these vector databases or other kind of memories. So I think that those are the most important factors. Then you can go into details like how the agents work internally, because if you go to Wikipedia or ask ChatGPT, it says that agent is as autonomous software doing the things on their own. Okay, that's fine. But how it's done internally is another thing, because you have those single agents, one-shot agents, I don't know, like multi-step agents, sequence-based, or multi-agent workflows, or even agents that
triage and so on. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So that there is a lot of different kind of agents, and it depends on the problem you're trying to solve, how to map it. And this is, by the way, also relates strongly to your first questions. Like actually my answer that the agents won't replace people anytime soon, because right now the agents themselves require you to be pretty much specific how you like them to solve the problem. For example, do this workflow, right? Like generate me 3 copies for my ad in Google AdWords and evaluate them, choose the best one based on some criteria whatsoever, and then publish it using the API. This is something agent definitely could do, and that's not a big issue, but it will only if you define those steps pretty much in details, because you cannot rely on the plan the agents generate on themselves most of the times. Sometimes for simple tasks it works fine, but if it's very complex task, trust me, it doesn't work that well.
Yeah, so I would say, like, basically how I see agent, it is some piece of software that takes action on your behalf, but you need to define specifically what is the task this agent should be doing. And there is still a long way till we get to the AGI level and the fully autonomous AI agentic workflows. But if you look nowadays from commerce perspective, right? You said that agents needs to be autonomous, that they need to have the specific task and they need to react in real time. If you think about digital commerce, what would be the examples of these agents?
Yeah, gotcha. I think that you always need to check, like, compared to the SaaS offerings, what SaaS is solving for your domain, in this case, e-commerce, and what's solving very well, what's not. So, for example, I think that SaaS software is great kind of like piece of infrastructure. AIs and LLMs and agents needs to have SaaS, right? Some kind of APIs. This MCP movement is all about this. So, for example, e-commerce platform itself, like the checkout or presenting the products or browsing the products, I think it will be very difficult to make it better using AI agents than it's done by the platforms themselves right now, because it's years of UX design optimizations. Even the speed of how it works would be very difficult to solve with agents. You need to remember one very important thing with agents. They are as fast as LLMs on the the communication level. So say that LLM, GPT-4, for example, which is pretty fast and wide and broad model, general use model, they usually generate something like 30 tokens per second. So 30-60 words per second. So imagine you want to use it for something like that data exchange or whatever. It doesn't make any sense, right? API can generate like a few hundred megabytes per second, or probably a few gigabytes per second. No problem with that. Like with SSD disks and fiber optics is not a problem. LLM won't do it. So what LLM will do better? I think something that is very difficult to automate in details. For example, customer support. So
Yeah,
after
so we can, before jumping to customer support, if I may, so the distinction, like the classic software development, it's fast, it's reliable, it's if then it follows all the structure. Whereas in the agent kind of world, you have non-deterministic systems that you need to find a balance between the speed, accuracy, the level of high risk hallucination, and you need to somehow work around these LLMs to make them work for this creative, more unpredictable scenarios that you have. So it makes no sense to replace good old software when it works, if it's not a conversational AI.
That's correct. So it doesn't make any sense. It makes sense to replace it where previously the SaaS needed some human assistance. So you had really nice, software for customer support like text.com or maybe Zendesk for ticketing. It's really great. Like you can build a knowledge base, give a search to the users or live chat, whatever. But in the end, 90% of the cases, maybe 70, I don't know, like, but for sure, for majority of cases, you need to have some customer support expert, human agent, answering the questions that left unanswered, or maybe still requires something from your internal system to answer. Like, for example, what's my domain expiry date? Those kind of things. There could be like hundreds, thousands of this kind of questions. What's my shipping date for my order, whatsoever. Like, a lot of different custom questions normal people are asking, and currently no SaaS is automating this.
Yeah, so even like recently I was talking with client and they said like we want to automate refunds because what happens underneath we have this SaaS for the for this kind of inquiries, but our enterprise workflow it requires us to take this info from the customer, get all the data about the order, about their invoice and so on, but then we need to go to the warehouse and we need to send a specific message to the warehouse. They need to check it, and only then they reply by email, and only then we can go back to the customer. So there's no way you can SaaS it, right? It's just
Yeah,
impossible. So you need this human that are brokers of the messages between customer and your internal products and your internal different departments.
absolutely. And taking this example even further, very often is a case that your warehouse or shippings are provided and supported by third-party companies. So there is no way you change the way they communicate with you. Like they send us an email or send an API call whatsoever, and you must comply because there is no other way to make it happen. And in this case, it's probably having human is the easiest way right now, but it's pretty much process based, so it's subject to be replaced by AI. And I think this is where the AI agents in e-commerce could work best, because it's very low hanging fruit, and they can simply be used to interpret the messages and the human kind of communication and save tons of time. In the end, probably there will still be human, because in this example you given, the refunds, when you are sending money back or accepting some products that are returned or whatsoever, you probably like to have some human right now to moderate the final action to be taken, because LLMs are good enough, but I don't know if there is a place for error in this process. If not,
It depends how good are your evals. But yeah, in general, like it's some kind of collaboration still. So if you
it remembers me the situation we had with this accounting software back in the day. Like there was there was quite a lot of software that were doing AI based accounting of the costs or whatsoever, and they were doing errors, which is still fine, because for example the number of errors is below the threshold, less than 2%, and normal accountants are doing like 5% of error. So still fine, right? So if you take this in consideration, design those evils you said, so automated tests that are checking what the LLMs is doing and what is answering, I think it should be really, really good result.
So if you're thinking about building this effective agent, I know that you're building open source agent builder, and you've built it because you've read all about how to build an effective agent that was released by Anthropic, and you have different routing, prompting techniques. You need to chain them together. There is a lot of AI engineering around it. Why is the case? Why can't you just put everything into one context? Because how SaaS vendors are saying right now is that, okay, so you have customer support. We just gonna add your customer data. We're gonna add your product database. We're gonna add your knowledge base policies, and it's gonna work. So why is it true? Why is and why not?
Yeah, gotcha. I think it could work for the simplest cases, the way you said, like you put everything in a context and that's fine. But this is not a real life cases. And I guess that the most important limiting factor is the context size, as you said. So in most cases, it's like 128,000 tokens. Gemini has 1 million. AMA 4 has 1 million, but which is a great step, right? But even still, even having this very huge context, let's say it will be like 10 millions, right? Probably enough to put your whole library, your customer information, whatever you have into it. It still won't work the way you think it will, because the LLMs are not the best in prioritization of the information the way you probably would as a human, because your context is like 30 years, right? Not 1 million tokens, which is very difficult to even evaluate how many tokens it is. Nobody knows. So I think that the division into sub agents solves this issue by two really great features. First is that you simply divide the context, right? One agent is doing one thing, the second agent is the second thing. They not sharing the context, they only exchange like the task definition, then the result, the outcome. So probably they could cope very well with those smaller context sizes. The other thing is the prioritization, because for example, in this e-commerce example, you have situation that you have a customer support agent, then you have product information expert agent, then you have customer orders history agent, then you have shipping and returns policy agent, whatsoever, like many different roles, right? And this main customer agent is in charge of routing the tasks to specific agent as you ask. Like, for example, you're asking for this return or shipment. So your question is routed to this agent, which has very, very detailed information about company policies on returns and history of returns for you as a customer. And it can answer only based on this information. So there is no risk that it will, take your order history or maybe some random product whatsoever into context, making a mess. And the same with those other sub agents. So this is very, very, very good strategy for prioritization, where to get the information from.
So if you like in the implementation process, like when you build those different policies and you know when to route to specific agents, you also increase a lot of accuracy, and you're not ended up in the disappointment that you're saying, oh, this AI doesn't work. And let me just when we started project with an enterprise client recently, and they said like, here's all our context, here are our PDFs, this is our product conflicts, this is how it should work. We ran basic evaluation tests, and the accuracy was like 27%. So it's just, you can go to production without it, right? So it's like impossible to give, like you can also give a random GPT and just make an answer and count for a great answer. So yeah, I would say chunk it into the bits, make it specialized, and orchestrate them in the good way. And you're doing this for non-technical people in OpenAgent Builder. But if you want to, do you want to show it or?
Well, I think that I won't take precious time of this podcast, but maybe just two words like OpenAgent Builder let the users to do all those things we just discussed. So building these multi-agent workflows, giving the access to tools, to vector databases, so memory. And one more important thing we didn't mention, and OpenAgent Builder is providing the UI. Remember the talk we had last year, somewhere in November, I guess, that the AI is lacking UI, which I think is still a huge problem to address. I mean, we discussed all sorts of different things, but we missed that for 90% of cases right now, the only UI you have for AI is a chat kind of UI, right? By the way, it's great for many cases, but there are a lot of other cases that it won't work. For example, in e-commerce, you probably need to have a kind of ERP-like view for orders, taxes, all those calculations, everything, to be able to edit it in a grid, but then present it back to the customer, and when customer change something, present it back in the admin panel. And OpenAgent Builder provides this feature as well, and I would say it was the most crucial feature we started with. So if you are a developer as a company and your business guys are asking you for building agents, with OpenAgent Builder you can do something like connecting those two words together. So you are building this integration parts, the UI part, and the business users are building the LLM part of things, so the task definitions, how the agents cooperate with each other, and so on. I think this is pretty unique to OpenAgent Builder. So if you like to try it, I mean, to our listeners, you can go to openagentsbuilder.com and there is free demo.
Okay, and I would agree that we lack this UI part. Like every single project we're doing, we realize that it's all so code driven and there's a lot of observability tools and so on. But if you want to present it to the business user, there's a huge gap. And we spent like even up to 50% of our development time to make some UI changes to present it to business. So I think it's a no-brainer that both that conversational AI would be the future of e-commerce, but also that the UI part is missing nowadays. So we need to build it.
Yeah.
Cool. So thanks for your time. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Always pleasure talking with you. First time, we are talking in public, so that's great.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you.